Now, let's go to Parliament because Parliament has been burning with a lot of issues, particularly the opposition's or minorities' motion on censorship for Ken Ofori-Atta. Earlier, the majority in Parliament, some 80, now 95, and now the entire majority side in Parliament have also joined the minority to ask for the head of Ken Ofori-Atta and Charles Edou-Boahen, who's Minister for Finance and Minister of State at the Finance Ministry. The President has given the strongest indication that he won't hear any of that. He would have Ken Ofori-Atta and Charles Edou-Boahen stay on till the end of the year. Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah, who is also Minister for Information, had come to clarify what the President said in English. And he had repeated and said that, well, Ken Ofori-Atta is able to take us out of the doldrums because that's what the President believes. Ken Ofori-Atta himself broke his silence not so long ago, indicating that he has felt the aches and pains and that we should trust him to take us out of the ditch. Just for a quick recall, before we get on to my guest who's joined us via Zoom from the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, let's listen to Honorable Appiah Kubi, who earlier led the majority group, some 80 MPs at the time, to make that call to the President. And their basis was that they won't participate in the reading of the budget nor the debate of the budget. Listen.
We have made our grave concern to the President through the parliamentary leadership and the leadership of the party without any positive response. We are by this medium communicating our strong desire that the President change the Minister of Finance and the Minister of State in the Finance Ministry without further delay in order to restore hope into the financial sector and reverse the downward trend in the growth of the economy. The summary of our concerns leads to a plea that the Minister of Finance, Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta, and the Minister of State of the Ministry of Finance, Honorable Charles Edou-Boahen, be removed from office. We want to serve notice, and notice is hereby served, that until such persons as aforementioned are made to resign or removed from office, we, members of the majority caucus here in Parliament, will not participate in any business of government by or for the President by any other minister.
And with Appiah Kubi, you could see people who had been deputy ministers, Carlos Ahenkorah, Eugene Osubin MP, all of those people. Appiah Kubi himself had been a deputy minister of state. So you ask the question, have they broken ranks with the President or the New Patriotic Party? Or are they just tired and frustrated as all of us are? And now the government functionaries are beginning to complain like all of us. Dr. Rashid Draman is the man to speak with on everything parliamentary affairs. He joins us on Zoom. Courtesy the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. Doc, good morning, and thank you very much for your time.
Good morning.
Doc, so I'm sure you've been watching and listening and hearing what's been happening in Parliament. I'll take your initial thoughts on what the majority and the minority's position have been on the Finance Minister and the Minister for Finance of State.
Well, I think at this point, it is very, very clear that the days of the Honorable Minister for Finance are numbered. In the beginning, we thought that this was just a kind of initiative taken by the minority to try to get rid of him. That is via the motion of censure that is before the House currently. And a few weeks ago, we heard some of the initial members of the backbench rebellion saying that they were not going to join the minority in this motion. But given the new developments and the fact that the majority leader is quoted as being saying that the call for the finance minister to go is now a call from the entire majority caucus. I think the work of the minority becomes now quite easy because for a motion such as the one that they are currently pursuing to pass, I think you need 2/3. And if you have the entire minority caucus behind it, they need about 40 or so MPs to join them from the other side. And the minister is gone. And I think even they can, given what is happening, I think the president himself must be very careful because we have never seen a vote of censure on a sitting president in our republic. The way things are going, care is not taken. Maybe this could also be on the head of the president as well.
Interesting. So, because you are a key watcher of everything parliamentary, I want to find out from you, just for historical purposes, has there been a situation where the side of government in parliament have broken away, broken ranks, or openly shared their discomfort and disgruntlement with the public against their own government? Has this happened before?
Not that I can remember since I started watching Parliament, since the second Parliament. We've had instances, but those were done in whispers and in secret, so that the backbenchers will meet with their leadership and, declare their displeasure and so on. And normally that's a family affair that is handled in a way that it doesn't get public. This time around, I think what is making the difference is the fact that, if you hear the members of the rebellion, if I can put it that way, I think they indicated that they made an effort through the leadership of their caucus, and that effort was dismissed. And maybe it was seen as a bluff, and that bluff was called by the leadership and perhaps even the president, because you hear them say the leader of their caucus and the leader of the House indicated to them he watched the president, and then nothing really came out of it. So I think for the first time we are seeing a group calling the bluff of the president and their leadership and breaking ranks and going public. And I think it is mainly because of the times in which we live. The economic situation is biting everybody. The MPs are under a lot of pressure from the people who put them there in the first place. And I think they are realizing, as we have been telling them all the time, at the end of the day, your allegiance is more to the people that voted for you and to the Constitution, rather than to some strong president or some party that whips you into submission. So I think for the first time, we are beginning to see the MP saying, on this matter, we are with our people and we are with the people of Ghana. Because I don't think today there is no one in this republic, even the super rich, I believe they are even feeling it more than we, the ordinary people. So this is really unprecedented. And I think today, it looks like it's only the president who thinks that, and the minister himself. The two of them are the only people who think there's nothing wrong. Otherwise, everybody sees everything wrong with how this person is managing the economy. And I think the earlier the president listens to these members of his caucus, I think the better it's going to be for all of us, and the embarrassment that's likely to befall this government.
So, having said this, the conversation again now is that the market will not respond favorably to Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, Dr. Charles Adu Boahen, and perhaps the president, because we saw at the recent Hogbe-Chocho, where the vice president of the republic was being hooted at. The president had earlier had his fair share of hooting in the Ashanti region, a stronghold, and then also in Kwabre. But some say all of this had been brought onto them by Parliament, because Parliament for the second time endorsed Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, even though there were issues that they had raised, and endorsed Charles Adu Boahen, even though there were issues they had raised. Can Parliament be faulted in all of this?
Yes, indeed. I think, of course, Parliament cannot avoid a share of the blame, and particularly the minority side. I think on this matter, I think some of us have had a chance to speak to the minority caucus, and I think my view to them at the time was that they failed the first test of holding government to account by going to the appointments committee and raising all kinds of issues against this minister as well as other ministers. And when it came to counting the votes, we saw that some of them voted for the minister to be approved. So that certainly was a failure on the part of the entire parliament, but singularly, I think, on the head of the minority caucus. And I believe that even their leadership admitted that that was an error. I don't know the details of what went into, saying one thing at the appointments committee in public against some of these ministers, and then going to raise your hand and say, yes, we vote to approve the minister. Having said that, I think they realize that they have made mistakes, and now they are, eating humble pie and saying that this minister must go.
Interesting, though. So, what could possibly then be the implications? Because the minority is not giving up. The majority looks like they have caved in and listened to the pleas of the president. But do you see a secret ballot and perhaps Ken Ofori-Atta being pushed out before December? Do you see it?
Well, if this motion goes ahead, and it's definitely going to be by secret ballot. I would bet that the minority can get the 40 plus MPs that they need from the other side to get rid of the minister. I can bet that. Especially given what we see and given what we hear in secret, and then also, I think if the media reports are anything to go by, if people are reporting that now it is a whole majority caucus issue, not just the 80 backbench MP. So if that is the case, well, if we're not careful, we're even going to get about 100%, supporting the motion. And that would be a huge, huge embarrassment. So I think, honestly, I don't know what's going on here. This minister is an accomplished person. In most democracies, by now, the minister would have said that, look, on the basis of all that is going on, I resign. I don't know what is it that is keeping the minister at post, despite all these calls and all this embarrassment on a daily basis that we hear. The minister should do the honorable thing, honestly, before it gets to a vote. Because when it gets to a vote, and we have a very recent history to guide us here, the election of the Right Honorable Speaker, he wasn't elected by only the minority caucus. There were people who broke ranks with the majority and voted for him. In the same way, we are going to see that it's secret ballot, and nobody is going to know who voted how. But by the numbers, we are going to know that it wasn't only the NDC caucus that voted to support the motion. So I think the president should listen very carefully to his caucus, and the minister perhaps should do the honorable thing in advance of this motion, like seeing going through the process and then coming to a conclusion. And in terms of implications, well, we have the budget that is coming. We have the IMF negotiations and so on. Right now, the way things look, if he goes, there will be problems. If he doesn't go, there will be problems. But I would say, if he goes, the cost will be less than if he doesn't go, in terms of the problems that are going to confront this government.
I see. Let's listen to Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta when he broke his silence finally after many calls for first the president to speak and for him to go. Take a listen.
Just to assure you that you have a finance minister who has gone through all the pains and aches, and nobody can really come and say you don't understand what we are doing. The question is, what resources do we have and how are we going to deploy them in the nation that we have? And how do you stand firm in very difficult circumstances, but being very confident that the nation is purposed for greatness, and you are blessed to have the opportunity to lead where we are going. So thanks, Mr. President, for the encouragement. And let me assure you all that your best bet is still Ghana. We can do it, and we should do it.
So, Doc, that's the finance minister thanking the president for the encouragement, and he encouraged himself. Today is the finance minister's birthday, and I'm sure he will wear white, quote the Bible, and tell us about how we're going to get out of this. But on a note of principle, would you want a resignation as his birthday gift to the nation?
That's his call. That's his call. And like I said earlier, I think everybody, now the call is not even coming from ordinary Ghanaians. It's coming from within their own party. So I think maybe he should listen to the call from his own party and the ordinary Ghanaians that these members of parliament represent. Because really, frankly, our country is not in a good place. I just came back from Kenya, and everywhere I went in parliament in Kenya, when the big question that they kept asking, what really went wrong with Ghana's democracy? What is going on with Ghana? What's going on with your politics and so on and so forth? We've become a laughing stock, if you like. And if you bring it back to this sub-region, many have argued that Ghana used to be the example that was sustaining democracy in the sub-region. And now people are having all kinds of reasons to say, well, it looks like the whole democracy project is nothing worthwhile if Ghana itself is faltering. So I think we are where we are, and people must do the honorable thing. That's just the way I look at things.
The key among the reasons Parliament is reconvening or has reconvened is to vet a deputy minister for gender and also a minister for gender, because Adwoa Safo for a long time has not been there. She's been on TikTok. And then also have a look at the budget and some other peripheral issues. But it does appear that the budget may not be coming at the opportune time, and within now and then, it leaves space for speculations, which the government has cautioned against because Sikam Pedidi, that's what the president said. What do you see again looking into the crystal ball?
I see a lot more confusion because we read that the budget is not going to come next week, as has been the practice over the years. We don't know when it's going to come because nobody has said anything yet. Because that adds to the speculation, that adds to the noise that the president said money doesn't want. If money doesn't want noise, then you don't create opportunity for noise to be made. If you look at the business before Parliament, this vetting of the ministers, that's very peripheral. I think the big issue is our economy. The issue of debt, the issue of the budget, and the issue of how we get out of the current situation in which we find ourselves. And in all these, if we cannot raise money, I think what we can do is perhaps to try and see how we can reduce our expenditure. And that's where I would see maybe Parliament coming in to rein in the way the public resources are spent. I just read this morning that the COP27 negotiations and discussions in Egypt, we have a delegation of 320-something people from this our country. And the Minister for Environment, I think if he's quoted rightly, was saying that out of that, some of them are NGOs and blah, blah, blah. But they put the number of those sponsored by government to 150. And I can tell you most of these people are traveling business class. They are on very high, big per diems and so on and so forth at a time when our country is bleeding. These are the areas where I would see Parliament reining in government. If we can't raise money, we don't have money to finance our expenditures and so on, let us cut the cost of running this country so that all this, expenditure, and I can tell you, most of these people who are going to this conference in Egypt, most of them are just going to walk around there and come back, and they will not have any effect, as is the case with most international conferences that take place. So I think the ball is right in the court of Parliament. I think they have a responsibility. If the executive is failing in the country, they should not fail us. They have a role to play in terms of holding the government to account. That's their primary role. But
Doc, can they really do that? The leader of government business and also the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, Osei Mensah Bonsu, sits in cabinet. You have a hung parliament that also has most of its cabinet ministers and deputy ministers in parliament, and for which reason we have even had to move the meeting of parliament to the afternoons so most of them could get a chance to participate. They are the same crop of people sitting at the table at cabinet, proposing things to parliament to have a look at it. Can they really do what you're asking? Or are we just confused? Do we need to change our constitution?
Well, the marriage between the parliament and the executive is an ongoing problem that needs to be resolved. I think we have all recognized that it's a problem because you can't be a referee and a player at the same time. You can't wear two hats, particularly when it comes to issues of oversight. So that's an ongoing problem. But I think we are seeing, as with the motion, as with the call on the finance minister to go and many other issues, in recent times, that I think MPs are beginning to realize that, blind loyalty is not helping this country. So hopefully, we would expect that, some of these issues, when they come up at cabinet, maybe those who sit in parliament and those who sit in cabinet will read the polls of their colleagues in parliament, both from their own party, as the backbenchers, and from the minority, and perhaps tell their colleagues in cabinet, the right thing to do.
Doc, I thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. That's Dr. Rashid Dramani. He is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. He's been speaking to us on issues from Parliament and about Parliament. Doc, thank you. Most grateful for your time. Happy birthday to Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. Would it be a best birthday gift to resign? I don't know, but people are asking for you. He says he's encouraged. He likes the president's encouragement. Are Ghanaians encouraged with him in government or in power? I don't know. We'll see after the break.